Hey everybody, this is Sam and welcome to How to Learn a DAW. This is going to be our prerequisite lesson for the first time ever, so you have to sort of focus on this one. Let's jump on in. Okay, so there we are, How to Learn a DAW. What am I even looking at? Okay, so over this lesson, we're going to talk about the different types of tracks and the difference between the mixer and the editor view. Okay, this is important because we need to understand what we're looking at before we can actually make progress in it. So what are tracks? So our Noisemakers definition is going to be tracks are what we use to capture the moments, refine ideas, and shape sound. And just as a note, there are going to be 3 of them. And the 3 types of tracks are audio tracks, instrument tracks, and aux tracks. Okay, so if we think of audio tracks, think of sound that comes outside of your DAW, meaning if it's going to be a microphone or a DI or anything like that. And if none of that made any sense, don't worry because we've got you covered. Okay, and that second type of track is going to be an instrument track. Now, these are going to be dealing with MIDI a lot and using software instruments. Okay, so another way to think about that is the sound itself is actually originating from the DAW as opposed to outside of the DAW. Okay, and then aux tracks are going to be only used for processing. So think of like reverbs, delays, anything in that realm, but something has to be sent to it or routed to it. Okay. And again, we're going to keep reiterating these definitions as we continue with the practical side of this. It's very, very important to remember that. So I'm purposely going through it fast just so we have some type of category or categorization of what we're talking about. And then when we're working on a mix or doing a production, we'll have that slide in the upper right-hand corner so you can reference it as well while we're working. Awesome. Okay, so that brings us to the question to answer, which is how many different views are there in a DAW? And there are 2. Okay, and the edit view is going to be one of those views. So the edit view is where we perform, record, and create the raw ingredients. Think of MIDI, audio. This is where we do editing, obviously. This is where we can do lots of things, okay? And then we're going to reference prerequisites on this one for capturing MIDI and capturing audio, but we're also going to reinforce this throughout the practical side of the lectures. And then that second view is going to be the mixer view. Okay, so the mixer view is where we balance tracks and process sound. Think of like EQ, compression, reverb, anything like that. Okay, and then we can reference level 1 post-production where we're going to be going over this in more detail. Okay, so remember, these are just prerequisite courses so we can establish some things before we move on. And that point of understanding, right? So we need to know the layout that we're working in so we can work smoothly and efficiently. By doing this, the ideas we have can have a better chance of becoming real. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's simple. What I mean by this is if you've ever had an idea and you say, oh, I've got this awesome idea, and then you go down to play something or do something, you're like, what track do I need to do? What am I even looking at? All of that stuff gets in the way of you actually getting the idea down to refine it to make it a great idea. That's kind of like the death of that's kind of like the death of great ideas, rather. We have a good idea that gets interrupted too many times and then we lose the thread a little bit. So by doing this way and separating that technical from the creative, what it allows us to do is have the technical aspects actually support the creative as opposed to getting in the way. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, and the questions to think on for the next one. How are all these tracks actually connected? Great, so really looking forward to the next lesson. Good job on this one.